Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Geography Insights. Today we will be discussing about the contribution of the Roman geographers in geographical thought. But moving on to the Roman geographers, first I would like to summarize the Greek geographical thought. And because much of the traditions of the Greek in geography were carried forward into ancient Roman scholarship. So those who are new to the channel would also get an insight into the Greek and the Roman geographers. Okay, let's start with today's video. The history of the geographical ideas is the record of humankind's effort to gain more and more logical and useful knowledge of the human habitat, tested and verified, that could be used to facilitate humankind's adjustment to the very natural conditions of the earth, to make possible modification of adverse conditions, or even to gain a measure of control over them. During the long period, your record of the humankind's efforts to gain knowledge about the earth as a human habitat, or the earth as the home of the man, there has been a continuing interplay between things and events observed through the senses, that is percept, and the mental images of them, that is concept. So the Greek geographers, scholars, they provided the framework of concepts and a model or paradigm of scholarly method that guided Western thinking for many centuries. Now here the word comes, that is paradigm. What is a paradigm? Paradigm, as you might know that it was a term given by the Thomas Kuhn. It's a concept given by Thomas Kuhn, while as the concept paradigm was initiated by the Aristotle in the Greek scholarship. It actually is a dominant knowledge which exists at a particular time. If we say there is a paradigm shift, that means one particular knowledge which was dominating the discipline has been taken over by another doctrine. And when number of scholars agree to that particular notion, idea or doctrine, it becomes a paradigm for that particular discipline. And once it is taken over by another idea, paradigm shift occurs. So this is what is called paradigm. So actually in the Greek geographical scholarship, they were not geographers as such when they were doing things and when they were writing a geographical phenomena. They were philosophers, or I should say they were in a transition stage between being a philosopher and a geographer. Because what they saw, they analyzed, they wrote it. And most of the geographical ideas were from the direct observation. They didn't do as a geographer. It was quite later on that geography as a discipline evolved, when the Greek geographers and Roman geographers, why they are important? Because they helped in the evolution of the geography as a discipline. So that's why geography as the study of its own history is important just to understand. Because what is geography is today? To understand it, we have to understand its past, and its past is having its roots in the veins of the Greek and the Roman geographers. So geography as a field of knowledge had its roots in the Greek scholarship. This is not surprising, as in the ancient time, Greek was one of the well-flourished civilizations dating back to 1500 before Common Era, and between 200 before Common Era, with its center in Greece and its surrounding areas, that is Miletus. And what happened that Miletus was a major commercial center, and that attracted sailors and merchants with different cultural backgrounds, and it was soon flooded with a fund of information. And there was not only a flow of geographical information, but there was also a group of people with intellectual and academic integrity who speculated about how all this Miscellaneous information could be assembled in some kind of meaningful arguments and concepts. Stimulus this also, it became reports that reports on Egyptian geometry, Sumerian algebra, and Assyrian astronomy, which laid the foundation of the mathematical tradition in the contemporary Greek scholarship. So Greek period is slightly called as a golden period because all Greeks provided a framework of concept that guided the Western thinking as such for many centuries. It was the most advanced economy in the world, and the Greek philosophers at that time provided the theoretical and scholarly base for the philosophical thinking through models, concepts, or paradigms which guided Western academy for many centuries. A large number of concepts and theories in the geographical field seem to have their inclination towards the Greek tradition. But now here the question arises, why Greeks evolved so scholarly and why philosophical base was strong? What? Because they were not inheriting or generating as such. They also borrowed a number of concepts from different civilizations. And according to a book that is James and Martin, All Possible Words, 1981, it was written in that book that although the roots of the ancient Greek scholarship in the development of the geographical ideas reach back to the observation of the ancient Egyptian measurements of the Phoenicians and the generalization of the Mesopotamians, that formed the concepts of paradigm was essentially taken from there, and people who have made some concepts from them and made a kind of paradigm of geography was essentially the achievement of Herodotus, Plato, Aristotle, Eratosthenes, and Strabo. So the Egyptians had always ways of measuring land in order to collect the taxes, and after that this led to the identification of north-south line in the boundaries of land, which leads to some kind of mapping. One concept that Greeks borrowed from the Egyptians, and later on Greek scholars have produced wonderful maps which have importance even in today. So this is all about the Greek geography, and let's talk about the Greek geographers. What are the concepts? That geography kept evolving as a discipline and undergo various paths to what it is today. From the mathematical tradition in geography during the times of Thales and Anaximander, like these are all the Greek geographers. Thales and Anaximander had mathematical tradition in geography, and Anaximander's ontological explanation of the universe, which appeared and laid the foundation of idealism. Idealism meaning that is reality and abstraction in the geographical paradigms of the 20th century. Actually, he wanted to tell that prime substance which could not be experienced through senses but became a concept in the process of deduction could become a real substance. Then the starting of dichotomy in contemporary Greek thinking. One was the ontological base, and another was the Thalesian tradition of considering water as the main substance of the universe. So to being a topographical explanation of the information by Hecataeus, leading to two views of geography, one being nomothetic, saying law-seeking, and one being the ideographic, meaning descriptive or particular things, description of particular things, to a historical approach in geography to study history from a true geographical standpoint, to that is Herodotus, to different interpretation of the cause and effect sequences in the study of geography by Plato, that world being creating in perfection now in the process of decline from perfection, to teleological explanation of Aristotle, to physical explanation providing mathematical boundaries to geographical areas, to making maps on the projections of the latitudes and longitudes of the places, establishing the exact position of every point on the Earth's surface. Geography has been having a huge history, and It kept evolving time to time, and we need to understand why the Greek and the Roman geographers need to study, why there is a necessity to study, because they have contributed a lot about the Greek, a lot about the geography in the path of geography as evoluting as a subject to what it is today. So here in this diagram we can see that there are Assyrian, Mesopotamians and Egyptians. Greek scholars borrowed the geometry from the Egyptians, astronomy from the Assyrians, and the algebra from the Sumerians. So here the question arises, why they have their own area of knowledge, geographical knowledge, but why geography, not as a geography as a subject, but people started to evolve the geography as a multidisciplinary subject in the Greek. But here also various types of knowledge and various kinds of specialized in various kinds of geography. But why the geography is not involved in this area? The answer is that determination. Greek scholars had determination to gain more and more knowledge, logical and useful information about the Earth's surface as the home of the man. And the roots of the geographical thinking in Greeks do have the glimpse of Egyptians and Assyrians and Sumerians, but the determination that they carried within themselves led them to experience the evolution of geography in their areas. So they borrowed the knowledge, but they have their own determination because they wanted to analyze Earth not just as Earth, but Earth as a home of man. And if we think as the Earth as the home of the man, it initiates the entire debate of man and environment relationship, which was one of the bases of geographical thing. And although a number of viewers are there that this relationship should not be studied in a manner that determinist study or the manner in which the possibilist study, but we do not think of these debates. The man and environment relationship is something very integral to the study of the geographical knowledge. And that particular study of the man and environment relationship centers around or revolves around the major Greek philosophers. So let's start with two basic traditions of the geographical study can be found in the study of the Greek scholarship. One is literary, another is mathematical tradition. And they studied Earth as a home of the man, and environmental relationship not as a particular subject of debate or as a subject of analyzation, but it started to move into the veins of the Greek geographers to study the Earth as the home of the man. Okay, so two areas where the major contribution of the Greek scholarship can be seen is the mathematical geography and physical geography. Okay, let's start with that is contribution of the Roman geographers. Okay, here you can see Roman Empire during the period of 27 BC to 1453 AD, that is before Common Era and Common Era. So this period is basically the era of Roman geographers in the contribution of the geographical knowledge. We will see now. Much of the traditions of Greek in geography were carried forward into the ancient Roman scholarship. The Romans produced little that was new in the field of geography, and writing shortly before the time of Christ, this is the Roman Empire at its height. You can see Asia Minor, Egypt, Macedonia, Italy, Rome, Spain. This all area became, Indeed, this is today's description, but this is all the Roman Empire at that period of time. So, writing shortly before the time of Christ, one Marcus Terrentius, Marcus Terrentius Varro. This person prepared a compendium of geography. Compendium meaning that detailed information about a particular subject in a book or other publication that dealt with the theory of culture stages that remain almost unchallenged during the 19th century. Varro described that man's culture is moving through a regular sequence. Originally, man derived his food from the things that the earth produced, like you can say that from this original state, like physical man. During that period of time, his needs, his requirements, his limited interests, all were totally dependent on the nature. For all his basic material needs like food, shelter, clothing, he had a theocratic approach to the physical environment. But with the advancement of the culture and agriculture, he made it into a pastoral nomadism, that is as a social man, and then through a agricultural stage where he became a little bit social, economical man, that is the geocratic approach, and finally he reached to the stage of contemporary culture, that is called the theocratic approach. Today the man is a technological man, but now we are heading towards a sustainable man. But here what happened is that modern man broadened his environment by creating his own environment through the scientific knowledge, skill, and advanced knowledge for better food, shelter, access, and comfort. He attempted to conquer nature and upset his natural balance. That is called a theocratic approach. So, Mr. Marcus Terrentius Varro, he prepared a theory of culture stages, describing the dependency of the man on the environment, meaning the idea which is coming out from his explanation is about the man and environment relationship. So let's come to the contribution of the Roman geographers. The first major contribution was done by the STRABO. He was actually, there is a lot of confusion about Strabo in various books that whether he's a Greek scholar or Roman scholar, but actually he is a Greek scholar. And he was strongly influenced by the historical topographical tradition of Homer, Hecataeus, and Aristotle. Often said that key historical traditions introduced by the Greek scholars was finally summarized by the Strabo. Except Aristotle's zones, there are various Greek traditions borrowed by the Strabo, and one was the historical tradition of the former Greek scholars. He was strongly influenced by the historical tradition of Homer, Hecataeus, and Aristotle, and he accepted Aristotle's zone of ecumene meaning habitable area, as defined by the Eratosthenes. He asserted that the limit of possible human life towards the equator is at latitude 12 degree to 30 degree minutes north. He placed the northern limit of the habitable earth, where coal is the climatic factor, only 400 miles north of the Black Sea, and he accepts the calculation of the Earth's circumference done by the Posidonius in about 100 BC. Now coming to contribution of Strabo. Contribution, he gave a correct explanation of the floods of Nile River, which were the result of the heavy summer rains in upper parts of river in Ethiopia. And his biggest contribution and monumental work, published in 17 volumes, is Geographica. He wrote 8 volumes on Europe, 6 volumes on Asia, and 1 volume on Africa. What was this Geographica? It was an encyclopedic description of the known world, and it attempts to explain cultural distinctiveness, the types of governments and customs in particular places. First 2 volumes of Geographica were devoted to the historical review of the development of the geography since the times of Homer. Actually, according to the Whole Jensen book 1981, the significance of the natural condition for cultural development was discussed in relation to a number of places, especially in the description of Italy. So, this is the world map by Strabo. It's the original map, but you can see a bit colored map. You will be able to understand the world map by Strabo. So Strabo's greatest, it's his greatest contribution lies also in the field of political geography, carried forward from the Aristotelian tradition. In his Geographia, he explains the prerequisites for the successful functioning of the larger political units. And he concludes that a strong central government and a single head of the state are essential ingredients for the success. Describing Italy, the core of the Roman Empire with its location is the then known world in the Mediterranean societal climatic regime, and its balance of mixed resources was best suited to fill this role. The idea of ethnocentrism, that is cultural, coupled with the deterministic notions, that is physical, concerning the environmental political relationships is upheld by him, and he has given the example of Italy to show this. Let's move to this. Another Roman scholar was Pliny, and he was a successful administrative officer, geographer, mathematician, and historian. He was born in Vicona, situated in northern Italy. He considered Earth as a sphere and told Earth is decline on its axis, which is the reason for the change of season. He described also various atmospheric conditions of the geographical description of various places, and most typical work of Pliny is Historia Naturalis, that is the encyclopedia of science, and he discussed cosmology to geography to economics in this. In meteorology, second work was his Meteorology, Facts of the Physical Geography and Climatology was discussed in it. History of Wars and Geography, that was published in 20 volumes, that was contains description of wars of Germany, meaning he wrote a historical geography in it. History of his own times, 21 volumes, was written in literary technique. Another major contribution was done by Ptolemy. Among the Romans, whose contribution cannot be overlooked, he revived the mathematical tradition, which was forgotten since the time of Thales. You know that Thales and Anaximander is known as the father of the mathematical geography, and to him the geography was a science of the art making, and this concept was borrowed from the earlier works of the Greeks, especially Aristotle, Hipparchus, Posidonius, and his teacher Marius Tyre. So, major field in the astronomical contribution, his monumental work known as Almagest. It was a book on astronomy, that is the standard reference for the study of movement of celestial bodies. Even accepted Aristotle's views that the Earth was spherical in shape, centered in the universe, and remained stationary. The celestial bodies revolving round it in a circular motion. Ptolemy, contribution in the field of cartography, mathematical geography, was that in the art of map making. His principal work was concerned with the construction of map projections. He accepted cartography as a major aspect of geography. He improved and modified various maps by adopting a projection for the world map, which had a graticule. This is the map of the Ptolemy. Ptolemy's Guide to Geography. After the completion of the Almagest, his Guide to Geography, consisting of 8 volumes, were devoted to the exact determination of the position of places by means of graticules of latitudes and longitudes. Basically, he wanted to evolve the art of the map making in the geography. And in the field of general and regional geography, he described nations and regions of the Western and Southern Europe, Northern Africa, Western, like you can see in this map. He mentioned geography of British Isles, geographical enumeration of names, physical features, places, tribes, all of that. So this is the cartographical, cosmographical, physical explanation of the world map, and there are more precise information about the sources of Weser, Elbe, and Vistula rivers in northwest Europe, Carpathian Mountains, Altai Mountains, Central Asia and Europe. And he also was pioneer who plotted the sources of Ganges and its main tributaries in Himalayas. He placed the Ceylon of Sri Lanka, although it was the wrong place, but yes, he knew that Sri Lanka was there. It was opposite to, but the location is bit opposite to the western coast of India. The description regarding the Red Sea, that is Arabicus, Sinus, mentioned in the map. Arabian Sea, Erythraean Sea. Arabian Sea was known as the Erythraean Sea, and the Persian Gulf was known as Persicus. Sinus was superior to his predecessors. He gave a better explanation. He described the land between Sudan and Equatorial Africa. So, the next geographer, who is Pomponius Mela, he wrote De Chorographia and Cosmography in Latin, and he was actually the last Roman geographer who did the contribution in the geographical knowledge. And in his book, he divided the world into 5 macro regions and provided a detailed account of northern temperate region. To sum up, we can say the contribution of the Roman geographers was in the field of mathematical geography and cartography, like Ptolemy, and mathematical geography Strabo. He brought back to the times of Homer and Thales and Anaximander. Historical geography we can see in the PLINI, history of his wars. Astronomical geography we can see the regional geography. So to conclude, we can conclude that all these geographers, without knowing or by knowing, have contributed a lot to the fields within geography. They contributed to physical geography, human geography, man-nature relationship, cartography, astronomy, medical geography, and many others. They have taken into consideration the path of geography as a discipline, and they were the first to demonstrate the importance and utility of geographical knowledge to the world by talking of man and environment relationship. And they stressed geography as a discipline that provides the best understanding of the interdependence of the human beings on nature and earth as a study of the home of man. So they were the ones to develop the concept of geography as a study of the earth. They laid the foundation of some basic traditions of the discipline, like mathematical and literary tradition, and the disciple of scientific inclination by deliberating both deduction and inductive reasoning. So we can say that the geography was coming into its shape of becoming in the evolution of a discipline. Undoubtedly, the Greek scholarship laid the foundation of scientific geography, which set forth in the successive periods of the academic innovation based on the empirically observed facts. It was the Greeks who developed the procedures we describe as the scientific methods. And Greeks developed the science of astronomy, general principles, the principles that this was a tremendous step forward in the whole history of the geographical ideas. The Romans, especially Ptolemy, made major improvement over the previously drawn maps with greater precision and accuracy, or dichotomy seemed to have developed in the ancient Greek scholarship, Greek geographical scholarship, between those who favored the mathematical tradition and those who sought the literally historical tradition. And dualism came into the into the system of studying the geographical knowledge. And today also in the contemporary geographical ideas also came into being of contrasting approaches between those who tried to formulate the generalization and those who just sought to describe the unique things. So here we come to the end of the video. I hope the chapter is clear to you. If you have any doubts, you can comment in the comment box. I'll try to give the answer about it. So please like, share, and subscribe. Good night. Be safe, be healthy.